Good evening everyone. Welcome to all. Black Diamond Public School, Gadi Katona, Jamui, Bihar. In-house training session 2022 to 23. I am Santu Kumar presenting a topic, a school after COVID-19. It is one of the most important awareness regarding school protocol after COVID-19. So let's us listen this session very carefully. This presentation has been provided by Santu Kumar and is being delivered in a school. This presentations has been designed to offer you some support around thinking about the needs of the children, people in your school, and how they will need to be supported in transitions back into a school or their new class. Some different models of thinking will be shared to help your thinking and for you as a school to decide on the approach that best suit your school, you, your pupil and parents. This presentation is only designed to add this thinking. If any further information or support is required, then please contact your school education psychologist. Our information pack has been sent to your school with further advice or support. Research suggests that many children and young people can find the transitions between school unsettling and stressful. Following the current public health crisis COVID-19, it is likely that many children and young people will experience similar feeling when they return to school once social isolation ends, especially those who are vulnerable, have special education needs, or are moving to a new schools. Usual programs of transitions may not have taken place, leaving both children, parents and staffs anxious. Many children have also experienced loss, bereavement, hardships and safeguarding difficulties. However, there will also be many children who will have had a positive experience being at home and look forward to getting back to normal. The purpose of this presentation is therefore to provide advice on how schools can support their children and young people in managing these transitions. It is a documents to provide some advice on how to support children who will be transitioning to a new school and those returning back to school. It is important to remember that although many children will be returning to their schools, this will be following a long period of absence and will need support. The following psychological models can also be applied to new starters, but it will be beneficial for schools to think about how the new term will start for them in terms of behaviors that we may expect. Some children will be disengaged with any type of learning and being back in schools due to the long period of absence from school. Some children may feel particularly frustrated about being at home, away from their friends, adults who support them, and missing key experiences, exams, programs, leaving schools, trips, etc. For some children and young people, their behaviors becomes more challenging that adults find difficult to understand and manage due to fight responses, uncertainty and change of routine. Anxiety return to schools may result in some children being anxious over leaving parents' home and safety that this offered. Some may be anxious over getting ill themselves. For some children, they may have experienced loss and behaviorment which result in them crying, shooting, anger, etc. in response. Anger in relation to a range of feelings. Some children may not experience any of the above and returns to school with no difficulty. Speaking to parents about how their children has been over his isolations will give information. Anger might be fear, frustrations, confusions, hurt, guilty, jealousy, helplessness, overwhelming stress, embarrassment, depressions, and rejections. Approaches. These representations offer an overview of several psychological theories that can be applied within schools to support the needs of the children and young people. Building positive relationship, peace model, mindfulness and resilience, attachment, nurturing schools approach, psychological care, emotions coaching, growth mindset, relationships. Upon returning to schools, a key area to think about will be the development and re-establishment of relationships. This will not only be for pupils but with staffs and each other. It is suggested that school focus on relationships first, how to support staffs and pupils to connect when they have been separated, as well as children and young people re-establishing friendships. Younger children may need additional adult supports in reminding them of how to play and interact appropriately with others. Staffs also needs time to reconnect with each other where they feel safe, fit, and ready to, so that they can model their behaviors towards children. The development of relationships will then lead to feelings of belonging and being safe, as well as the opportunity to reaffirm structures and routine. Attachment. As a result of the COVID 19 pandemic, some children may have experienced further trauma. The impact of trauma often depends upon the severity and timing. Children whose caregivers respond sensitively and appreciate to the child needs at that times of distress and fear are thought to develop secure attachments to their caregivers. They are thought to have better outcomes than non-securely attached children. We know that transitions can prove to be difficult even when children have secure and stable background, reinforcing the need to use attachment informed principles universally for all students. Additionally, the uncertainty of the coronavirus and the impact that this has had, such as routines being disrupted and or family members being ill, may cause anxiety for children upon their return to school. It is important that relationships with staffs are re-established for all children, the school setting as well as the adults that care for children and young people. It is important that relationships with staffs are re-established for all children, the school settings as well as the adults that care for children and young people need to be safe and secure basis in order for them to be emotionally able and ready to learn. Attachment. This diagram demonstrates the importance of schools being a safe base and how this can be achieved. Children need experiences of being and feelings calm, believe that they are lovable and are loved, that others want to connect and interact with them, that others are interested in them and their thoughts, ideas, that they can be curious and make mistakes, that they are safe and that they can trust others to meet their needs. Natures. Many staff will have heard of measures, boxes, inventions, nature groups. However, many of the key principles can be implemented within the classroom. There are 6 main principles of nature. First one is learning is understood developmentally. Second, the classroom offers a safe base. Third, the importance of nature for the development of well-being. Fourth, language is a vital means of communications. Fifth, all behaviors is communications. Sixth, the importance of transitions in the lives of children and young people. Nature principles. A nurturing approach can be applied at both the universals and targeted level and promotes inclusive, respectful relationships across the whole school communities, including learners, staffs, parents, and partners. Education Scotland's nurturing approaches. Nurturing approaches. Yes. Nurturing approaches recognize that positive relationships are central to both learning and well-being. A key aspect of a nurturing approach is an understanding of attachment theory and how early experiences can have significant impact on development. It recognizes that all schools, setting staffs have a role to play in establishing the positive relationships that are required to promote healthy social and emotional development, and that these relationships should be reliable, predictable, and consistent where possible. A nurturing approach has a key focus on the school environment and emphasizes the balance between care and challenge, which incorporates attachment, warmth, and connections alongside structures, high expectations, and focus on achievement and attainment. Taken from Applying Nature's a Whole School Approach, Education Scotland. Resilience. Resilience is the ability to bounce back from adversity. Resilience is not a personality trait. Innate characteristics play a part, but resilience is something that can be promoted and developed through the provisions of support and opportunity for growth. Whole school resilience based approaches are more likely to have a long term positive benefits than individual interventions. The resiliences framework summaries a set of ideas and practices that promote resiliency. The framework is split into five headings or sections: basics, belonging, learning, copying, and core self. Within each section, there is a range of evidence-based ideas that can be used in supporting resiliency within children and young people. The resiliency will is another approach which identifies six major approaches to promoting resilience along with specific strategies. The most critical part in this model is again through relationships. Look this framework regarding this topic. So these are the basic procedure that we follow. The resilience is will. First one is increase pro-social bonding. Second one, set clear consistent boundaries. Third, touch teach like skills. Fourth, provide caring and support. Fifth, set and communicate high expectations. Seventh, provide opportunities for meaningful participations. Mindfulness. Mindfulness is the quality of being present and fully engaged with whatever we are doing at the moment, free of distractions or judgment, and aware of thought and feelings. It helps children and young people to regulate their emotions and focus their attention, as well as developing their resilience. Furthermore, it can open a channel of discussions with adults on discussing any thoughts, worries, and concerns. Emotion coaching. Emotion coaching is an evidence based strategy based upon the work of John Gottman. Emotion coaching uses moments of heightened emotions and resulting behavior to guide and teach the child and young persons about more effective responses. Thought empathetic engage the child emotion safe state is verbally acknowledged and validated, promoting a sense of security and feelings felt. This activates changes in the child's neurological system and allow the child to calm down psychologically and psychologically. We learn by doing. Brains are wired through hand-on interactions with the physical world. Emotion coaching involves teaching children about the world of emotions in the moment, giving children strategies to deal with UPS and down, accepting all emotions as normal, seeing undesired behavioral responses as opportunities for teaching, building trusting and respectful relationships. Psychological care. Research has identified 5 key principles that supports recovery following a disaster or serious accident. These principles will be important to consider when supporting members of staff, children and young people upon their return to school. The 5 principles are a sense of safety. It is important that adults, children, young people feel safe upon their return to school. A sense of calm. Children and young people are likely to experience a range of emotions, including both pleasant and unpleasant emotions. It is important that these are normalized and they are given support to help them manage their emotions and return to a state of calm. Third one, a sense of self and collective efficiency. Children need to feel they have some control over what is helping to them. Fourth, social connectedness. It is important that adult, children and young people feel they belong and have a social network who can support them within the educational setting. Fifth, promoting hope. Whilst things may feel difficult at the moment, it is important that adults, children, and young people feel things will get better and work out in future. They need to be provided with reinsurance and understand that in the long term they will feel positive again. PACE model. PACE can be used by any adults to validate, explore, and understand children's feelings. PACE stands for playfulness, acceptance, curiosity, empathy, playfulness, an open, ready, calm, relaxed, and engaged attitude. Acceptance, unconditionally accepting a child makes them feel secure, safe, and loved. Curiosity, without judgment, children becomes aware of their inner life. Empathy, a sense of compassion of the children and their feelings. Growth mindset. A growth mindset refers to the belief that ability and knowledge are not fixed and that with effort, experience, and support we can achieve growth. In contrast, those who have a fixed mindset are of the view that their qualities are carved in stone are and are unchanged. Research has shown that when children have a growth mindset, they are more willing to take on challenging tasks, focus on learning goals, and able to rebound more easily from failures. The growth mindset will be important and useful for staff to foster when children return to schools. It is highly likely that they will feel overwhelmed and home learning. As such, the key message and strategies that we can take from the growth mindset will reassure and support them that the difficulties that they experience now can be mastered. The power of the word at is a quick and easy way to promote a growth mindset. For example, you cannot do that maths questions at but you will get there. Growth mindset. The talent and intelligence can be developed over time and with effort. Attitude evolving thrives on challenges, willing to try new things, embraces failures as a mechanism for learning and development. Next, talent and intelligence are fixed at birth. Attitude static beliefs that are no room for improvement, stuck in the way it's always been done, inability to realize change, fixed mindset. Final thought. What all of these psychological theories have in common is the importance of positive relationships that children and young people have with adults in school, taking at the beginning to either start or re-establish relationships, but not only with the adults but with each other will help children and young people to feel safe, secure and connected with the school community, which is in turn will promote a whole school approach, enabling all to be ready to learn. Along that, we can say that also children who lives have already been devastated by conflict are now facing a second crisis of learning loss. Children have missed so much schooling. They do not know how to read, write and recognize number, said museum, and entire generations of vulnerable children are at risk of dropping out of school altogether, leaving them and exposed to early marriage, children labor and worsening mental health. Today, on the start of a new academic year in the country, the museum met children at a UNICEF supported Mekani Center in Amman. Mekani centers provide vulnerable children and youth with safe spaces to develop new skills, access learning supports and take part in activity including art, music and sports. The Mekani programs has reached nearby 500,000 children and young of all nationalities since it started in 2015. On Thursday, museum will for the first time return to Jathari refugee camp, where the sea sought refugees as a 13 years old with a family nearby a decade ago after fleeing the war in Syria. UNICEF is working with the government of Jordan to help children in most communities and refugees camps stay in school and accelerate and recover their education. UNICEF is supporting teachers to access children learning levels and provide learning recovery programs and reaching children forced to drop out of schools with non-formal education and training. This week starts a few academic years where in-person learning resumes, bringing hope to Jordan children by acting now to accelerate learning and narrow to education gap, especially among the most vulnerable children. We can provide children with the building blocks of learning they need to approach their full potentials. And Sheroz Mauzi, acting representative UNICEF Jordan, during this visit, Museum also met young people engaged in volunteering, entrepreneurship, green jobs creations, social innovations and climate activism to hear about their community involvement as well as their ideas and solutions to improve the lives of young people in Jordan and help protect them from the worst impact of climate change and water scarcity. Safety tips for attending schools during COVID-19. As the COVID-19 pandemic continues, families and caregivers might worry about their children getting the COVID-19 virus at school. Unfortunately, COVID-19 outbreaks do happen in schools setting, but global research has shown, at least with early variants, that when the schools use multiple prevention strategies, the spread of COVID-19 virus in schools can be lower than or similar to community spread. Encouraging COVID-19 vaccination. COVID-19 vaccines are available for children as 6 months and older in the USA. COVID-19 vaccines and booster dose might prevent your child from getting the COVID virus, becoming seriously ill or hospitalized due to the COVID-19. Getting a COVID-19 vaccine can also help keep your children in schools and more safely participate in sport and other group activities too. Wearing face mask. School policies vary when it comes to face mask. However, whether or not you are vaccinated, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention recommends wearing a face mask in indoor public spaces. If you are in a community with a high number of new COVID-19 cases and hospitalizations, wearing the most protective face mask that you will wear regularly fits well and it's comfortable. While indoor calm limit that spread of COVID-19 virus, the COVID-19 virus recommended that students and staffs who have been exposed or think you have been exposed to COVID-19 wear a mask around other for 10 days after their last exposure. If your children wear a face mask in school, consider these tips. Have your child wear the most protective mask possible that fits well and is comfortable. Second, provide your child with a clean mask and a backup mask each day. Consider giving your child a clean, reusable bag to store the mask during lunch. Label your children's mask so it is not confused with other children's masks. Tell your child to never wear another child used mask. Screening test. Screening identifies people with COVID-19 who don't have symptoms and who don't have a non-suspected or reported exposure to COVID-19. This can help keep COVID-19 from spreading further. If COVID-19 is spreading at a high level according to the CDC, schools might screen all students and staffs who participate in activities that may involve a higher risk such as cure or band. Second, soccer, football or other sports that involve close contact. Third, dances or sports tournaments. Schools also may screen students and staffs before and after breaks such as a holiday or spring break. Schools vary in their use of screening. They may change requirement based on attendance by students at a high risk of severe COVID-19, or they may change requirement based on risk level in the community. Proper ventilation. Improving ventilation in schools can reduce the number of COVID-19 virus particles in the air. Opening multiple windows and doors, using fan or changing the heating, ventilations, air conditioning or air filtration systems can help. During transportations to and from schools, keeping window open a few inches also can improve air circulation. Hand washing. School and parents should encourage a student to frequently wash their hands with soap and water for at least 20 seconds or use an alcohol based hand sanitizer that contains at least 60% alcohol. Children should cover their mouths and noses with an elbow or tissues when coughing or sneezing. Children also should avoid touching their eyes, noses and mouths. To ensure throughout handwritings, kids can be tough to keep washing their hands until they have sung the entire happy birthday song twice, about 20 seconds. Staying home when sick and getting tested. Students who have symptoms of an infectious illness should stay home from schools and get tested for COVID-19. Possible symptoms of COVID-19 children include first one is fever, second cough that becomes productive, third chest pain, fourth new loss of taste or smell, fourth changes in the skin such as discolored areas on the feet and hand, fifth sore throat, next nausea, vomiting, belly pain or diarrhea, next chills, next muscles aches and pain, next extreme fatigue, next new severe headache, next new nasal congenitions. Everyone with COVID-19 should stay home and isolate from others for at least 5 full days. School policies might vary on when a child who has had COVID-19 can return to schools. If you are recovering from COVID-19, CDS recommends and wearing the most protective face mask that you will wear regularly. Fits well and is comfortable. Wear the mask while you are around other people throughout day 10. Children who are too young to wear a mask should be cared for in as separate space as possible by a caregiver who is wearing a mask. Contact tracing. Contact tracing is the process of identifying people who may have been exposed to someone with COVID-19. During an outbreak, contact tracing to help students and staff know when to stay home can help prevent the spread of COVID-19. Strategies such as improving ventilations or wearing of well-fitting mask also can help prevent further spread. If you If your children, if your child's school does contact tracing, make sure you understand what step your child needs to take after COVID-19 exposure. Cleaning and disinfecting. Cleaning once a day is usually enough to lower the risk of germs spreading from surfaces in schools. The CDS suggests schools have exposure of four steps to follow after meals, after exposure to fluids such as blood or saliva, and after changing disappears. What do we if your child get COVID-19? When if your family and your child schools carefully follow these prevention strategies, it's still possible for your child to get COVID-19. If your child tests positive for COVID-19, talk to your child health care provider. Keep your child home from school and away from others except to get medical care. Next, focus on relieving your child's symptoms. This might include taste, plenty of fluids, and use of pain relievers. Contact your child's schools. Make sure you understand that a school's policies on where your child and return to schools. Find out if distance learning is an option while your child remains at home. Consider picking on one person in your family to care for your sick child. Have that caregiver be with your child and separated from other in your home. When possible, unfortunately, pets can catch COVID-19, so limit contact between your child and your pets. Call the healthcare provider if your child gets sick. Emergency warning signs include trouble breathing and persistent pain or pressure in the chest, new confusions, inability to wake up or stay away, and pale, grey or blue colored skin, lips or nail bed depending on your child's skin color. All federal, states and local policies must prioritize children and schools. Schools needs adequate federal, state and local funding and resources so they can continue to implement universal infections control, mitigations and safety measures through reboost school nursing and health services. This is required to protect students and staff from COVID-19, COVID, respiratory infections and any other potential future threats. School staffs, including school nurses, teachers and administrators, should be supported as they continue to navigate in-person learning during the pandemic. They have had to work throughout new guidelines from various sources, funding issues, COVID testing, availability, a school's board changes and public backlash to provide our children and adolescents with the educational and socio-emotional support they need to learn and thrive. The mental health needs of children and adolescents must be prioritized and funded. A school policy should be protect students, school staffs and teachers using sense and as a guide. COVID-19 vaccinations and boosters, as recommended by the CDC, should be encouraged. Vaccinations helps to prevent, to lessen a transmission, severity of disease and death. Adequate and timely COVID-19 vaccinations resources for the whole school community must be available and accessible. Ensure that the school administrations and medical staff, school nurses and nurses aides are given ample training and funding to better understand the latest recommendations regarding vaccination, mitigations, testing and therapies. School nurses and school health personnel should not be the difficult to provide school-based COVID-19 testing or contact tracing. School nurses and other schools health services staffs are responsible for the direct care of actually ill and injured students. Safety planning for students with chronic and life-threatening conditions, medications and administrations and skilled nursing services, screening, implementations of school wellness plan and many more critical functions that must continue. These functions cannot be conducted safely if testing and contact tracings are added to their scope of work, especially with limited staffing and underfunding of school health prior to the pandemic. If nurses are required to conduct testing in their schools, resources and appropriate training must be made by available to provide additional supports. School districts must be close communications and coordinate with state and local public health authorities, school nurses, local pediatric practitioners and other medical experts, including widely sharing districts COVID-19 related policies. School policies should follow mitigation measure strategies to prevent the spread of the virus. Improve the ventilation in school building. Ventilations help reduce exposure to SARS-CoV-19 and other respiratory pathogens, as it helps dilute the vital load by reducing virus containing accelerate in the air. The allocations of fund by the U.S. Department of Educational to facilitate resources to improve ventilations in U.S. school acknowledgement the importance of proper ventilations in prevention the spread of COVID-19. In addition to increasing the flow of clean outdoor air when conditions permit, other simple measures to improve ventilation such as properly placed fans, use of portable HEPA units properly sized for the room, or creations of directional airflow can help improve indoor air quality. Certain previous strategies are not recommended. These are not helpful in the reducing the spread of the virus and may serve as fomites when absolutely necessary, and a last resort schools may have to temporarily close because of a school outbreak community surge in COVID-19. Children cannot learn effectively if there are not enough healthy adults in the building to adequately supervise and teach them. Such closure should be as brief as possible, and funding to support virtual learning and to provide needed resources should continue to be available for communities, schools, and children facing limitations. Implementing these learning modalities in their home. School districts should stay in communications with local health and agencies and testing sites to coordinate and streamline responses if possible. Special considerations for school health during the COVID-19 pandemic. A school attendance and absence. The best way to reduce absenceing is by closely monitor attendance and acting quickly once a pattern is noticed. Daily school attendance should be monitored for all students, including students participating in persons and distance learning. A school should use multiple strategies to proactively support students' attendance for all students. Additionally, a school should implement strategies to identify and differentiate interventions to support those at higher risk of absenceing. Local data should be used to define priority group whose attendance has been most deeply impacted during the pandemic. Schools are encouraged to create an attendance action plan with the central emphasis on family engagement throughout any school's year. In evaluation of connections attendance, that data from a school's year 2020 to 21 rates chronic absence were highest among predominantly remote schools compared with students who were primarily in persons. That gap was most pronounced among elementary and middle schools. Student chronic absence was more prevalent among Connecticut students who received free or reduced price lunch, students who break black or Hispanic, students who were male, and students who identify as an English learner or having disabilities. National pre-pandemic chronic absence data mirrors several of these demographic trends. Behavioral health, emotional support to the children and adolescents. We must take the lessons learned from the pandemic and make them into actionable policies. The COVID-19 pandemic created profound challenges for communities, families, and individuals, leading to range of emotional and behavior response. The loss of and grief of a caregiver and trusted adults, the prolonged uncertainty and durations of the crisis, the rapidly changing and conflicting messages and the isolations as a result of remote schooling and needs of quarantine has led to a range of emotional and behavioral response from the children and adolescents. Populations with a higher baseline risk, such as historically undersourced communities, children and youth with developmental disabilities and other special health care needs, and children with pre-existing depression, anxiety, and other mental health conditions are especially vulnerable to these effects. Behaviorment has a significant impact on the short and long term adjustment of children, their developmental trajectory, academic learning, psychologically functioning, and emotional adjustment and behavior. These are the basic approaches regarding a school after COVID-19. So for today's, so now that's all. Thank you.